Hey everyone, it is Evan here from the Trade Risk on Wednesday, March 11th. We are intraday right now, and this is our weekly Swing Trade Ideas video where we bring you some of the names from our watch list, stocks that are holding up well, showing some relative strength, and ideally are not yet too extended in their move, which is not all that hard in this type of environment. As always, these videos are powered by our partners over at Investors Business Daily. We curate ideas from their stock lists. You can get access to their stock list with a link in the description of this video. So we're looking at 4 names this week, pretty short list here, and just like last week when we did our trade ideas video, just as a general reminder here, as this market is in some very experiencing some very volatile times, this is, for me anyway, a time where I'm curating strong stocks. I'm not interested in accumulating individual stocks, buying individual stocks at this point. I'm waiting for more of the dust to settle. That was the case last week. It's still the case, at least for me and my particular strategy this week, that I'm not interested in putting any of these longs on right now. I just want a universe of stocks that are respecting support and at least holding up a little bit better and have some more potential when the market does find its footing to potentially act as leaders going forward. So that's what this list is, and you're going to see a lot here that looks similar to our first name here, Booz BAH, which comes from IBD's list, but essentially where we have a very clear level here of prior support where we've basically seen accumulation in between the 66 to all the way up to 70 or so, but just this general zone in here over the past year or so for BAH has been where buyers step in. And for me, this stock on the longer term basis, granted, because this is a weekly chart, this continues to look healthy here so long as it can hold above this zone. And quite frankly, I'd love to see it even come down into the 66, 67 zone, maybe even undercut, but find some support there, and that would be an interesting candidate, at least for me, from a technical perspective of holding long-term support, testing it, and just really kind of resetting from some of the froth and chasing of the breakout here over recent months. So BAH, we can look at a daily chart, but really I think it just plays out better there on the weekly time frame. But basically you can see here that it's been developing a base for a number of months. It's still kind of in the middle of that range here, but tested the lower end, and going forward, as long as this is over $67 or so, this looks like an interesting candidate for me from a longer term perspective. So BAH, that's the first idea. Number 2 here, actually, number 2 through 4 all come from our watch list. So number 2 is Zynga. So Zynga here, very similar kind of pattern. If I go to a weekly time frame, again, you can see just the longer term levels I'm looking at. You saw buyers kind of step in, accumulate around 550, 590. That's where the stock has found support. And so as long as it's holding above this year-long zone of essentially accumulation and prior price support, I think this is an interesting candidate. If we zoom out here on the daily chart, again, you can see those levels we just drew. You can see it's not trading all that far off of its highs here. In fact, it did make briefly new all-time highs just 4 days ago, and actually I don't think those are all-time highs, but new 52-week highs just 4 or 5 days ago. So very much a relative strength player here is ZNGA. So take a look at that one there for potential setup. Number 2 here from our watch list is PDD. This is a name that we do own. So this is a current long holding. It's having a very rough session today. So we have owned this since late February. We were fortunate enough to pick it up here with our Merlin strategy down around 33.17, I think was our exact entry on this particular name. We scaled half of the trade into kind of resistance up here into our first profit target. So we are down to a half of a position in this stock now, and our stop loss is basically where we bought it. If it starts losing this zone down here, then we're going to be out of this trade. But it has held up pretty well recently. It hasn't been breaking down to new lows. This has a different pattern here than, say, the rest of the market. It started to, had a pretty rough gap down in 2019, and it was playing catch up. But as the market started to melt down more recently, this certainly did pull back. But notice it's just a slightly different overall look and feel than the broad market's doing. But still, just like we looked at before, we're kind of looking at, really this zone in here between about 31 and 33, 32s. That's kind of where I'd like to see this hold on to, from a bigger picture perspective. Now, the individual trade, like I mentioned, if it starts losing this zone down here, we're going to be out of the remaining half of this trade. But for now, we have it on. And looking for a move up into the 41s if this can actually stabilize here and break through this recent $37 resistance. So PDD, own it, scaled half into strength, and have a stop at basically even. Last but not least is SMG. So SMG here is, again, a longer term name that I think is just best viewed on a weekly time frame. And once again, you'll see kind of the longer term support accumulation area that I'm basically looking at here, just under or around this $100 level. So you can see, again, zooming out here, it's had a very strong 2019. It basically pulled back and went sideways into the end of the year. It started to continue that trend early this year, but it, of course, wasn't immune to this market sell-off. So if we go down to a daily chart, again, you can see you get this base of here of buyers stepping in and accumulation in mid 2019. We're coming back down to that zone now. So again, a retest or trading prices down to around 100 or so, I think looks kind of interesting on a longer term basis for SMG. So that's it. That's the names we have for this week. It is getting a little slim out there in terms of names that are still just holding up and haven't totally broken longer term levels. So again, I think risks are still high out there. So again, I'll repeat that none of these names should be thought of as jump out and buy now points, simply curating ideas for the better times and the more calm times that will undoubtedly be in our future. So that's it from me. Trade ideas every Wednesday just like this. You can subscribe on our YouTube channel or follow us at The Trade Risk. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you back here for the weekend recap on Friday.